Hey there, it's David H. Lawrence, the 17th. How you doing, hero? I recently read an article that reminded me of something that I learned way back in the 80s, late 80s, early 90s, when I first started doing talk shows. And what I found really interesting about this article that I read on Medium by a guy by the name of Dave Schools is he was crediting this newfound phrase that he found really interesting to podcasters, modern podcasters, people today. And I had to chuckle because this is pretty well tread ground. This is old advice. He heard people like Gary Vaynerchuk and Tim Ferriss and some people from NPR using it, and he's like, "That's good. That's really good." And it reminded me that a long time ago, a program director at a radio station that I was working at said, "Look, what you want to do is you want to put your guest at ease, and you want to make them think that they can give you a gift. So instead of just asking a question, start your question every so often, not every time, but every so often, with two words. And if you do that, you're going to make them feel like, oh, they're wanted and their information is valuable. And some people don't realize that that's the case. They think when they go on a talk show or when they're in a conversation at a party that they're being grilled, or that they're just kind of passing the time for people. They don't realize how valuable their time is. And you can make somebody's time feel much more valuable to them by starting a question with two words. And the two words are, "I'm curious," and then go on with the question. It makes such a difference because it says, "I've always been thinking about this," and, "Oh, you're just the right person to answer this question," and, "I'm curious and I could ask anybody else in the world, but you seem to have the best answers." So you get that kind of like welcome mat effect of saying, "Hey, if you could answer this for me, that would be great. It would scratch this itch that I have. It would satisfy this curiosity that I have." So great that Tim Ferriss uses it. Great that Joe Rogan uses it. I've given you a link to the article so you can see what happens. But those of you who've been in radio, and I know a lot of the people that watch these videos have come from radio, as I have. And so if you've done talk shows and you've gotten any training in interviewing, I'm sure you'll get a kick out of the, "Oh, look how new this is." But there's one more phrase that I want to kind of layer on top, like icing on a cake, that I also think you will find useful. And that is when you ask a question and somebody explains something and you truly do want more information, but you don't want to say something like, "Oh, really? Tell me more," because that kind of seems generic, or I'm wondering why that's the case. Just another simple two-word phrase will work for you. And that is, "How so?" Just like that. "How so?" I really think that, Congress is barking up the wrong tree on this issue. "Oh, really? How so?" And saying "how so" isn't argumentative. It isn't saying, "I don't believe you." It isn't saying, "Yeah, I don't agree with you." And it kind of ties into a video that we talked about earlier in this series, where when somebody is saying something that you think they just might be assuming, and you really would like to find out if they have the backup for it, you can ask the phrase, "How do you know that?" That's a little bit more accusatory. "How do you know that?" is like, "Really? Huh. Tell me how you know that." But "how so?" Very interesting, very innocent, very, just looking for some facts, ma'am. "How so?" Huh. How so? It just works. And when you find yourself, we did the series of networking videos. When you find yourself in a situation where you want to engage the person in in a deeper conversation, in a conversation that has more meaning, more fact, more feeling, those two phrases, right? "I'm curious," question, and "how so?" Can be really, really useful. And I'm wondering if that kind of, if especially for those of you that came out of radio, is this the kind of thing that you were taught when you first did talk shows, or maybe you just organically figured out how to do interviews? I don't know. I love interviews. I've done over 12,000 interviews between radio and podcasting over the years, and I just adore it. I love digging in when people have something really interesting about their lives or about their business or about their jobs or their points of view. I just love those. So, I'm curious, and how so? I'm curious. What do you think of those phrases? Let me know in the comments below, and tell me, how so? I'd love to know what your thoughts are on this. If you'd like to join my list and know when these videos come out, there's a box even further down the page if you're watching on voheroes.com that says get on the list. So go ahead and fill that out and get on the list. I'd love to have you. And we'll do another one of these. By the way, don't forget, a couple of days, we're going to be doing AMA 2, Electric Boogaloo, Ask Me Anything. So if you have any questions about anything that I've dealt with in this video series, anything about me, anything about VO Heroes, about the world of performance, voiceover on camera, if you have questions about Rehearsal Pro, or if you have questions about anything revolving around that, let me know. Let me know. Post your questions and or send them to me. Just figure out a way to get them to me, and we'll do another AMA, because the last one just turned out so great. That's coming up in a couple of days, so make sure you get your stuff in now. I'm David H. Lawrence, the 17th. I thank you so much for watching, and I will talk to you tomorrow.